Hello everyone. This story is about, what if Naruto and Temari had a political marriage after the failed Suna invasion? Desperate to keep their alliance with Konoha, the Suna council decides to offer Temari's hand in marriage to none other than Naruto, after realizing who he is. Hope you enjoy the story, and as always, please like, share and subscribe for more. Now let's start. Well, that could have gone better, Naruto said tiredly as he picked at his ramen. It was all he could do not to snarl as he replayed events from the council meeting in his head. Oh, I don't know, Temari said mildly from the stool next to him. She held up her hand and counted off as she continued. It's not like you didn't threaten Danzo with root, insult the Uchiha by having his fiancé kicked out of the council, insult several clan heads when they refused to believe you. Not satisfied with that, I especially loved your description of the elders as senile old fools with their heads shoved up their asses. You truly have a natural talent for diplomacy. She finished with more than a hint of sarcasm. Naruto shrugged and slurped up some of his noodles. You forgot the part where I threatened to release the Kyuubi, he pointed out mildly. Hearing a startled gasp from the other side of the counter, he smiled at Ayam reassuringly. Don't worry Ayam-chan, I wouldn't actually do it, but I needed to remind some stubborn old fools that messing with me is a really bad idea. Regaining her compose, the ramen girl smiled back cheerfully and went back to overseeing the ramen pots, though her eyes did flick over at Naruto with worry from time to time. Ignoring the byplay, Temari rubbed her face wearily. Honestly, I was trying to forget about that. Not that I disagree with flattening the village if they tried to make one of our children a Jinchuriki, but I would strongly prefer a method that didn't result in your death. Naruto stared at the Hokage monument for a moment before shrugging again. Well, I probably could do it, especially since Bachan likely wouldn't try and stop me, but I doubt they would have believed me if I said that. He drummed his fingers on the counter and thought. Pretty much everyone in there could beat me individually. I think I'm probably only maybe low jonin skill-wise, but everyone always seems to forget that I can create thousands of bunshin. Temari nodded at that. Undoubtedly, the council members had read reports about how many clones Naruto could make, but that was very different from actually seeing it done. She remembered her husband's fight with her brother vividly because it was one of the most terrifying things she'd ever seen. She let out a mental sigh and wondered exactly how bad she'd been in a previous life to have a Jinchuriki husband and Jinchuriki brother. It wasn't a bad thing really, now that Gaara wasn't randomly homicidal, but it certainly was strange that Kankuro was the normal member of her family. A slight grin formed on her face as she watched Naruto slurp down some more noodles. At least her life wasn't boring. She banished the grin with a thought. No, damn it. I'm still pissed at him for the council meeting. Was it really necessary to piss the council off like that, Naruto? I've worked very hard on making us seem reasonable and responsible, and you pretty much destroyed all of that. Naruto finished off another bowl of ramen and faced her, his expression grave. Temari-chan, I didn't piss off anyone that wasn't already against us. The elders, not fans of mine, though I suspect Hamura and Koharu actually approve of you. They certainly seem to be looking at you to shut me up anyway. Speaking of, I was sort of expecting you to kick my ankle or something, why didn't you? Temari groaned in frustration. Believe me, I wanted to, she said sharply. She took a few seconds to consider how to explain while chewing her lower lip in thought. Well, she finally said. You are the head of the Namikaze clan and we can't afford for you to appear weak in front of the council members. If I were to do something to control your behavior in council, then the assumption would be that you were merely my puppet and that I was the real power in the clan. That seems stupid, Naruto remarked. I'm a freaking Uzumaki, not a Nara. I truly value your advice, Temari-chan, but if I chose to do something, not even you could stop me. I am aware, Temari said with narrowed eyes. That statement seems to be missing the part where I make your life a living hell after you do something stupid though. Naruto gulped and smiled nervously. Hey, I usually listen to you and you know it, he pointed out hurriedly. I'm just pointing out how stupid it sounds that I'm some sort of puppet. Oh, course it is, Temari replied. What you're forgetting is that appearances are important, Baka husband. And frankly, you just showed yourself to be a dangerous loose element today. I don't see how that won't come back and bite us in the ass. Well, like I said, it could have gone better, Naruto admitted. I didn't exactly appreciate the insinuations from the elders that this was my fault somehow. What was I supposed to do, let Han rampage across the village? So, I already wasn't in the best of moods when Hayashi suggested using one of our children as a Jinchuriki for the gobi. I've wanted to take a chunk out of his hide since the Chunin exams, and well, he gave me an opening. And by taking on the Higwa clan, you dragged the Aburame and Inuzuka clans in as well, lovely. Temari commented. Given the alliance between those clans, it was bound to happen, Naruto said seriously. On the other hand, I didn't piss off the Inoshikacho trio or Asuma-sensei. That's got to count for something, right? I suppose so, Temari grudgingly admitted. I have to admit, I'm really grateful Asuma stood up for me when Danzo questioned my loyalty to the village over the events in Suna. I figured he would, Naruto replied. I don't see someone as laid back as Asuma-sensei siding with a prick like Danzo, but what I really want to know is how the hell Danzo knew about what happened in Suna. I didn't put you punching me in my report, and Asuma-sensei told me on the way back he wasn't going to include when you bounced him off the ceiling. A slight smirk found its way onto his face. Not sure if he did it to be nice or because it would be embarrassing. Temari couldn't help her snicker at that, but sobered up quickly. Was it a good idea to call Danzo on it though? That comment about an investigation getting to the root of the matter wasn't exactly subtle. Naruto sighed in frustration. I don't know, he said quietly. I'm really out of my depth dealing with that devious bastard. I probably shouldn't have done it, but no way in hell was I going to allow him to have you kicked out of the council meeting like Kuratsuchi-chan. She's an IWA kunoichi, and you're a sworn Konoha kunoichi, as well as being my wife and proxy vote. Seriously, Danzo can kiss my ass. Temari couldn't help the soft smile that made its way to her face as she listened to Naruto rant. As much as she would like to berate him for his actions, Naruto was very protective of those he cared about. It bothered her a great deal that her actions had been used in an attack against her husband by the old cripple, but it wasn't going to happen again if she could help it. Naruto's increasingly bizarre rant against Danzo was cut off as an ANBU entered the ramen stall. Uzumaki Naruto, your presence is required by the Hokage. Oh, hey Miko-chan, Naruto said cheerfully. Not getting a response, beyond a blank stare from the cat mask, Naruto frowned. Hey, if you're angry cause we haven't had that spar, I've been really busy, but I should be freed up in the next day or so. Temari palmed her face. Naruto, Hokage? She's waiting for you to acknowledge the summons. Oh, Naruto said with a slight blush of embarrassment. Sorry Nico-chan. I'll head that way as soon as I say bye to my wife. Hopping off the stool, he moved up behind Temari and wrapped his arms around her as he nuzzled the back of her neck. Don't know what Bachan wants, he murmured. I know I promised a massage, but I think you'll have to settle for just soaking in the onsen. The onsen isn't much fun by yourself, Temari replied, relaxing back into his embrace. Naruto chuckled and playfully nipped the junction of her neck and shoulder, getting a light gasp in response. So, round up the girls, but don't forget I'm still planning on doing that sealing for Sakura-chan tonight. Temari stiffened and growled at him. You sure know how to kill the mood. She sighed in resignation. Fine, but can you send some clones out to round up the girls? I don't really feel like walking all over town. Naruto snorted and stepped back with a smirk. Nah, make Ina-chan do it. She's hiding behind the bushes across the street. See ya later Temari-chan. Whistling a jaunty tune, he crossed his hands behind his head and took off out of the stand. Still recovering a bit from Naruto's embrace, it took Temari a moment before realization hit her. Oh, I'm gonna kill him, he left me with the bill. Giggling a bit, I tallied everything up and tucked the receipt away. Don't worry Temari-san. Naruto-kun has a standing tab he pays off every week. I think he set it up with Dad after you started restricting his visits here. Ah, Temari said, not sure how to respond. You know that I don't have anything against him eating ramen, but I can't let him eat it every day, right? I nodded with another giggle. My dad and I miss seeing him every day, but I can't complain about the results. Naruto-kun is becoming a very handsome boy. Temari groaned and dropped her head on the counter. Not another one, she complained. Lifting her head, she half-heartedly glared at the confused waitress. It seems like every girl who has ever met my husband has the hots for him. Should I add you to the list? I blushed heavily, but shook her head no. I'm sorry if what I said made you think that, but he's like a little brother to me, she said. Her blush faded a bit and she gave Temari a bright smile. Doesn't mean I can't notice he's getting handsome though. I suppose so, Temari grumbled. It's just frustrating for me. I don't have to worry about him straying, he's not like that, but all these women throwing themselves at him sort of pisses me off. Temari sighed heavily. What makes it worse is that I can't make the ones that want him most to go away. Not without costing him most of his female friends, and mine I suppose. I whistled under her breath. That sounds really unpleasant. I'm not sure I'd be able to handle it if something like that happened with my boyfriend. Temari chuckled sourly. I wouldn't put up with it from a boyfriend either, but the baka is my husband. We're sort of stuck together, you know. Gave Temari a very direct look. That didn't sound like you actually like Naruto-kun very much, Temari-san. Wondering why she was getting a rather impressive amount of killing intent from a waitress, Temari blinked and thought back over what she said. I think this time you misunderstood me, she said finally. Rubbing her hand over her stomach, with a small smile she met Iam's eyes directly. I love my husband very much, Iam-san, but it doesn't change that he seems to go out of his way to make things more difficult. Temari sighed in irritation. I swear, if he was given the choice of two roads, one covered in a landslide, I think we both know what road he'd pick. Cheerful again, Iam nodded with a grin. Of course, he wouldn't be Naruto-kun otherwise. Rolling her eyes, Temari careful shifted herself off the stool and stood up. One hand on her stomach and the other at the small of her back, she tried to stretch out to relieve some of the discomfort. I'm sure it will be worth it, she told Iam. Still, don't let anyone tell you being pregnant is fun. I am beyond ready for these two to get out of me. Turning away from the giggling waitress, Temari paused when she realized that the Nico Anbu was still present. Did you need something from me, Nico-san? She asked, curiously. I have been ordered to ensure your safety for the duration of your husband's meeting with the Hokage, Nico said calmly and flatly. Seeing the surprise and confusion on Temari's face, Nico leaned in and spoke in a near whisper. There may have been a blonde brat that threw a fit earlier today about the lack of security for his pregnant wife. It is also possible the aforementioned blonde may have guilt-tripped a certain village leader about it. Temari scowled and unclenched her hand hard enough her fist began to shake. I'm pregnant, not helpless, she hissed. I'm gonna kill him. He had a valid point, Nico said quietly, undercutting Temari's rage. It's not well known, but ANBU keeps a list of potential targets in the village for hostile forces. Temari-san, you rank very highly on the list because you are pregnant. ANBU has turned back 4 attempts to probe your security in the last month. Temari paled at the news, but still held on to some of her anger. Peachy. Does my husband know this? Is that why he threw a fit? Nico tilted her head curiously. Your husband is not ANBU, she answered slowly. As an ANBU member, I would never speak of things that happened in the Hokage's office, but my understanding is that a certain blonde was concerned that his enemies would try to strike at him, though his wife. Temari's eyes narrowed involuntarily. I see, she said dryly. You've been most unhelpful, Nico-san. One would almost wonder why. In response, Nico tapped the handle of her sword before fading into the background in the wonderfully disturbing manner ANBU seemed to enjoy. It took Temari a moment to remember, and when she did, she barely kept herself from facepalming. She'd totally forgotten Nico had trained with Naruto's mother, which was stupid of her, especially since Naruto had brought up the matter of the Kenjutsu spar not 10 minutes beforehand. Temari stopped right outside Ichiraku and nibbled on a thumbnail as she thought about the encounter with Nico and what it meant. 2 things stood out really. First, Naruto was worried about her safety but was unwilling to bring the matter up with her. That was probably a smart decision on his part. Temari was loath to admit it, but it was unlikely she would have reacted positively to the idea she needed help. Even now, the thought of asking for help with her security tasted like ashes in her mouth, but it wasn't just her at risk. Running a hand over her swollen stomach, she mentally sighed. She was willing to risk her life for her pride but not her baby's. Damn that idiot for knocking her up. The second thing she'd realized was that Naruto had a great deal more support in the village than she'd assumed. Probably a great deal more than Naruto would expect either. While certain elements of the population still hated and feared him, or hated and feared her, most seemed to be coming around. As much as Naruto wanted to make his own way, the announcement of his heritage played strongly in his favor. Since she couldn't train, perhaps she could find a way to broaden that support base for Naruto while he was busy training himself. An evil smile crossed her face as she considered the resources available to her. Oh yes, she had a new plan for her days now that didn't involve just watching Naruto train. Though on second thought, perhaps she could schedule a small amount of time to watch him. She quivered a bit as she pictured him training, stripped to the waist. Yummy. Shaking the thought from her head, she looked across the street and shouted. Yo, flower girl, get over here now. She couldn't help a small giggle at the sudden cursing before Ino stumbled out looking guilty. How did you know I was there? Ino asked, curiously, once she'd gotten close enough. Naruto's a censor, Temari said dryly before bursting into laughter at the dawning look of horror on Ino's face. Oh. Kami Ino, you should see your face. Why you mean he knows? Ino whispered, horrified. I have no clue, Temari replied, still snickering. He knew you were over here, but it is Naruto. He may not have any idea what you were doing. I'm not sure which is worse, Ino muttered sourly. Temari shrugged, not her problem. So, Ino. I need you to send out some clones and round up the girls. We are gonna spend the afternoon soaking in private onsen, one you don't have to worry about being peeped on. Ino grinned and popped out a few clones that took off running, though one didn't go far before it dragged Hinata out from behind her tree, causing Temari to sigh again. Do I even want to know why you two are stalking my husband? Temari asked irritably. It's not stalking, Ino grumbled. It's research. You do realize that is the same excuse Jiraiya uses when he peeps on the baths, right? Temari pointed out as she headed for home. Before she took more than a few steps, she turned and popped her head back into the ramen stand. I am San, if you're interested, a group of us girls plan to hang out in the private onsen at my estate. You're more than welcome to come if you want. Me? I am asked with raised eyebrows. I'd love to once my dad gets back, but why invite me? Temari rolled her eyes. You're nice, Naruto likes you. I like you, and I could use another girl there that isn't currently drooling over my husband. She chuckled at Iam's flummoxed expression and damn near started laughing at the small pouts from both Ino and Hinata. Okay, I'll come once my dad gets back, Iam said hurriedly, as if the opportunity might pass her by. How do I get there though? Temari said in thought. Flower girl, you got enough chakra to leave a clone here as a guide? Ino shrugged. I think so, if it doesn't take too long. Even if it does, I'd be able to send another clone. Sounds like we have our plan, Temari said. See you when you get free, I am San. Exiting the ramen stand again, Temari picked up the thread of the previous conversation. So, as I was saying, same excuse as Jiraiya. Ino followed along pouting, and Hinata wisely chose to stay out of the conversation. Hey, Temari, Ino said finally. Naruto wouldn't really let the fox out, would he? Temari groaned and palmed her face. Baka husband. Naruto made his way up to the Hokage tower and eyed his usual window entrance sadly. As much as he would prefer to use it, it probably wasn't a good idea when he'd been formally summoned. He was halfway tempted to do so anyway, but it was maybe, kinda sorta possible he'd already caused enough trouble for one day. That thought in mind, he snorted lightly as he walked in and headed upstairs. It wasn't like he deliberately caused problems, usually. Knocking on the door, probably the first time he'd ever bothered. He heard a muffled command to enter. He strolled in, shocking Tsunade if the way her eyes flickered between him and the window were any indication. Good thing I came in the door, he thought, seeing the seal around his usual entrance. Hey Bachan, you called for me? He said neutrally, trying to ignore the prisoner restraint seal, with pain enhancers, he noted with some alarm. Activating the office privacy seals, Tsunade steepled her fingers and regarded Naruto calmly for a moment. She allowed herself a small smile when he began twitching uncomfortably, but banished it as she prepared to get down to business. That was a very interesting performance in the council chamber, Naruto. So I've been told by Temari-chan, Naruto said with a sigh. I assume this is about my threat. Correct, as Hokage, I am unable to take sides in clan disputes unless they reach certain levels. The head of a clan threatening to release the Kyuubi is far, far beyond the required threshold. While I sympathize and understand your distaste with the idea of creating another Jinchuriki, don't you think your threat was a little extreme? Naruto stared at Tsunade in bafflement for a moment before attempting to release the Genjutsu he was sure he was stuck in. Naruto, Tsunade said in a soft dangerous tone. This isn't a Genjutsu, but after the level of threat you used, I can't deal with you in our usual manner. Now, why the hell did you choose to threaten the entire village the way you did? Naruto flinched away from the sudden spike in her tone before his innate stubbornness kicked back in and he jutted out his jaw aggressively. Hokage-sama, my clan is responsible for the Kyuubi no Kitsune. If the seal doesn't take the fox with me when I die, one of my descendants will be forced to take up this cursed legacy. I know this, I understand this, and even though I hate it, I accept it. If that pale-eyed bastard thinks that he can use one of my family members as a Jinchuriki for a different Biju, then he can go fuck himself. Those self-righteous assholes are very quick to declare something as being good for the village if they themselves don't have to suffer the results, but I guarantee that if you suggested using a fucking Hyuga as a Jinchuriki for the Gobi, he wouldn't accept it. I still love this village, I still dream of being Hokage and protecting the village, but if the council decides to fuck with my family, then that wasn't a threat, Bachan. That was a fucking promise. Naruto finished his rant panting a bit and slightly flushed when he realized he'd been yelling at Tsunade. I see, she said calmly. Naruto, let me make something completely clear. No matter what Hayashi suggested earlier today, one of your children would not be acceptable as a Jinchuriki for the Gobi, and do you know why? Konoha is a delicate balance of the power of the shinobi clans residing here. There is no way that it would be acceptable for two Jinchuriki to come from the same clan at the same time. She paused and froze him with a furious glare. If you ever use a threat like that again, I will bust you down to Genin. Stick you in chains and separate you from your wife and children until I'm sure you understand exactly how badly you fucked up. Is this completely clear to you? Naruto swallowed down his rage and his pride but found it very difficult to meet Tsunade's eyes. Yes, he managed to growl out. I understand completely, Hokage-sama. Was there anything else you required? Tsunade studied Naruto carefully, keeping the pain of being called Hokage-sama in that tone from showing on her face with great difficulty. No, we have other things to discuss. Sit down, Naruto, she said, pointing at one of the chairs in front of her desk. Naruto bowed stiffly. As Hokage-sama commands, he said tonelessly as he moved to take a seat. Tsunade sighed and massaged her temples wearily. Naruto, she said softly. It's not that I want to do those things, but as Hokage I cannot afford to let you make a threat like releasing the Kyuubi without calling you on it. I bend rules for you, but there are limits to what I can do. Do you understand? Still bitter about the ash chewing, Naruto took a moment to sort through his response. Bachan, I'm aware of what being Hokage requires, but threatening me with my family is a line you shouldn't have crossed. I'm completely furious about that, and the fact that you did it after Hayashi's stunt in the council meeting just pissed me off more. He forced himself to meet her eyes firmly. I don't care what happens to me, but if someone touches my family, the streets will run with blood, and I dare you to tell me any of the other clan heads would react differently. Tsunade was the first one to break eye contact, and she sighed heavily again. No, they wouldn't, but Naruto, it's the only leverage the village has with you. Normal incentives and punishments don't work with you. I fine you, I doubt you care, I remove you from the council, I doubt you care. I slap sanctions on your clans, that works how exactly? Your clans consist of you and Temari, for right now. Every other clan head, even the Uchiha, is concerned with the public reputation of their clan, and push comes to shove, you couldn't care less. There are times you have to channel more of your father and less of the stereotypical Uzumaki disregard for formalities and appearances. Tsunade paused and gazed out at the Hokage monument for a moment. Just so you know, Gaki, if they touched your children, you wouldn't be the only one causing the streets to run with blood, but the more you act like a clan head, the less likely they are to even try. Tsunade's explanation, especially the part when she revealed she'd join him in his revenge, cooled Naruto's temper, and he forced himself to look past the issues. Pulling a pre-made seal from his jacket, he stuck it on the table and activated it. "This is a privacy seal I learned from my father's notes," he said quietly. "I take it you don't trust the ones built into the office?" "No," Tsunade said, still gazing out the window. "Sensei left me a hell of a mess to clean up here." She turned to face Naruto. "You do know I would never threaten you with your family, don't you?" Naruto shook his head. "It took me until you said that before I realized that there was more going on than you chewing me out. It sort of clicked then, but I'd already dug myself a hole by then and I had to continue. Anyone listening would have found it strange if I just backed down, you know." "By anyone you mean Danzo and Root, right?" Tsunade said wryly. Naruto flushed a bit and gave her a weak grin. "I didn't think you knew about that, Bachan." Tsunade rolled her eyes. "You aren't the only one with access to a Hokage's journals, Naruto," she reminded him in a chiding tone. "Ah, right, forgot about that," Naruto said sheepishly. "So, that was a show for the cripple then?" "Most of it," Tsunade said with a nod. "I'm a bit irked with you for threatening the council, with the QB mind you. That wasn't the brightest thing you could have done, but given the circumstances." "Yes," Naruto said dryly. "That has been pointed out, but I was pissed and it wiped that smug smirk off his face in a hurry." Tsunade couldn't help chuckling, recalling Naruto's description after one of his missions about an enemy that looked like a Higwa with 2 sticks up his ass. "Yes, I have to admit, that was amusing, but you can't play that card again, you know that, right?" "Yeah, but all that means is that I'll have to train harder and get so awesome that they know I could kick all of their asses if I had to." Tsunade rolled her eyes and snorted. "Goes with the hat, yes. How did Temari take it?" "I might be sleeping on the couch," Naruto admitted. "She was not amused that I ruined her diplomatic efforts in the council, but she said that she was forced to allow me to do what I wanted because of appearances." Tsunade said, tapping a nail on the desk idly. "She's right about that. I think you firmly established that you're a wild card today." Naruto grunted in agreement before he adopted a thoughtful look. "Hey Bachan. How did Danzo team know about what happened in Suna with Temari-chan anyway?" "I got lucky he backed off like he did when Asuma-sensei backed me up, but neither of us included her actions in our reports." "I thought you screened that ANBU squad?" Tsunade frowned. "I did. I can't reveal the 4th member to you, but none of them are Danzo's agents." "But, it has to be one of them," Naruto pointed out. "If it wasn't, it would have to be one of Team 10, and that seems really unlikely." "Unlikely is not the same as impossible," Tsunade reminded Naruto pointedly. "The old cripple is firmly entrenched in the village, like a cancer. Unfortunately, like a cancer, sometimes you have to map it out before you can operate." "Totally over my head, Bachan," Naruto said dryly. "Do I look like a mednin to you?" "You know, every Hokage has had at least some skill with medical jutsu," Tsunade said with a snicker. Naruto glared at her with mock rage. "Oh, you just had to go there, didn't you?" He sighed theatrically. "Should I send a clone to the classes, Bachan?" "You should probably send a few. I can't guarantee the survival of just 1 or 2 given your usual attention span," Tsunade replied. "Ouch, that hurts Bachan," Naruto said with a chuckle. "So, was there anything else you need from me?" "I sort of need to get home and prepare for the adoption ritual with Sakura-chan. I need you and Shizunichan there just in case something goes wrong." "That's tonight, huh?" Tsunade said thoughtfully. "Yeah, we'll be there, but for what I wanted to talk to you about. In 3 months, there will be Chunin exams held in Suna. It is a perfect opportunity to further strengthen the alliance with Suna, and I intend on using you as my messenger." "Okay, but what about Temari-chan?" Naruto asked. "She's due not long before that, and I'm not sure she'll be fit to travel by then." "Why would you want to haul 2 infants to Suna?" Tsunade asked, baffled. "Well, you want to strengthen the alliance so that when the Gobi reforms we can count on Suna to back us up and not just stay out of the fight, right?" "Well, yes. A stronger alliance is useful for other things as well, and I put together an incentive package, but you didn't exactly answer my question, Naruto." Naruto shrugged and tried to explain. I'm sure that the package won't hurt, especially if I'm delivering it, but don't you think allowing his niece and nephew to visit him would have a major impact? Maybe, Tsunade conceded. It certainly wouldn't hurt, I suppose, but why would it mean as much as you're implying? Because he's a Jinchuriki, Naruto said bluntly. I certainly hope that things are getting better for him now that he is the Kazekage, but the fact that I'm willing to trust him with my children, you can't put a price on something like that for us. Especially with Gaara's history. Trust me, Bachan, this is a lot more important than you might think. I suppose I'll have to take your word for it, Tsunade replied. I'll have to arrange more security, and they'll only be able to go for the finals. More than that, and you know the council will throw a fit. Should work, Naruto said thoughtfully. Temari-chan would probably like to spend more time with her brothers, but she's more in tune with the political aspects than I am. Tsunade glared at him lightly. It would be hard for her to be worse, Naruto. She dropped the glare and gained a pensive look. I suppose that's a bit harsh, other than your stupidity today with the QB threat, you've been getting a lot better at it. Naruto winced at the reminder. Okay, I get it, he said hurriedly. Now threatening the asshats with the fuzzball. So, what's the plan for the exams, he said changing the subject. Well, I was of two minds, Tsunade said with a grin. Since you were promoted outside the exams, it would be possible to enter you as a genin, but I decided you're probably complained too much about that. Snickering a bit at the unamused expression on his face, Tsunade continued with a grin. Instead, I'm going to promote you to Tokubetsu Jonin and send you as a Jonin sensei. Naruto stared at Tsunade, his mouth hanging open in shock. Bachan? Are you sure about that? I'm not sure I'm ready to be a Jonin just yet, he said once he managed to recover from his shock. Full Jonin, no, Tsunade replied calmly. Your skills are growing very quickly, but I'm glad to see it hasn't gone to your head. The reports I've received place you at high B or low A for most skills. This is more than what is expected from a Chunin, but is still short of what we expect from our Jonin. You also don't have the mission history needed. Still, two facts stand out. The first is that you are simply stronger than the vast majority of Chunin and your skill level is still rapidly climbing. The second is that I need a way to send you to Suna that doesn't draw attention. Your choice, brat. Genin or special Jonin? Naruto glowered at Tsunade. Not much of a choice there, Bachan. I'll take the promotion, but what team will I be leading? Well, Tsunade said with a smirk. I was thinking either Team 9 or Team 10. Naruto took a moment to consider that before his eyes opened in horror. Team 10, he said hurriedly bouncing up in his chair. Dear Kami, Team 10. Probably for the best, Tsunade said with a nod and a smirk. I'm not sure you're youthful enough for Team 9. Breathing a sigh of relief, Naruto sank back in his chair and let the adrenaline rush fade away, leaving him feeling a bit weak. He really liked Team 9, but they were friends best kept at a bit of a distance. Especially 1010 and her recent tendency to blow him up. Or stab him with a kunai, claiming it was a valid medical technique. There was something really wrong with that girl and he wasn't sure it wasn't caused by long-term exposure to Lee and Guy. Forcing his mind back on track, Naruto asked the first question that popped into his head. Hey Bachan, is Asuma-sensei cool with this? I know he's pretty close to his team, and what about the open slot? Already taken care of, Tsunade said with a smile. Asuma intends to work with his team until it's time for the exams, but I'm sure he'll want to talk to you as well. For the open slot, do you think Sakura is fit to take the exams? She's soaking up the medical jutsu and skills like a sponge, but she does live with you. I figure you'd probably know better than I would if she was mentally ready for it. Naruto scratched his chin in thought. If it was right now, nope, not a chance in hell. She's getting better, but the team did a lot of damage and it pops up at odd times. Also, despite the fact she hits almost as hard as you, her physical skills are not the greatest. Still, got 3 months to train her up, and if I'm unavailable cause of missions or the toads, well, I'm sure Temari-chan would be delighted to help out. Tsunade winced at the thought of Temari controlling Sakura's physical training. Was a reminder that Naruto was capable of playing hardball as well. Should work, was all she said though. Naruto shrugged and stood up. Well, if you don't need anything else, I need to run an errand or two and head home and start prepping the seals. He paused for a moment and turned back to Tsunade. Hey Bachan, I can tell Temari about the assignment to the Chunin exams, right? I'm a bit leery of keeping secrets involving her bother from her after the last time. Tsunade waved away his concern. You can tell Temari, but remind her that the fact you will be my messenger is classified. I'm sure that won't be a problem though, Temari is a smart girl. Giving a nod, Naruto released the Namikaze privacy seal and headed for the window only to freeze when he remembered the rather painful seal around the window. Rotating on his heel and hoping Tsunade hadn't been paying attention, Naruto headed out the door mentally rubbing his hands together gleefully. If Temari-chan had taken his advice, and she probably had, all the targets of his revenge were gathered in one spot. Chuckling a bit at Naruto's aborted window exit, Tsunade eyed the restraint seal around the window thoughtfully. Perhaps that one was a keeper. Naruto spotted his target where he thought he'd find her, and forcing a confident smile onto his face, he entered the shop and sat down across from one of the most terrifying women he knew. Afternoon Hibi-chan, he said brightly. Anko paused to stare at him in amazement, dango stick clenched in her teeth, like Genma and his Senbon. You got a lot of balls to just drop in on me like this, Gaki, she said in an amused tone. Whatcha want? Naruto's grin got even wider if possible. Well, I have a business proposal for you. Anko rolled her eyes and chewed on her dango skewer. Not interested, brat. I doubt your wife would like that, and even if she did, you're a bit young for my tastes. Try coming back in a few years. Huh? Naruto said, dumbfounded before his mind rebooted and he understood her. What? No, you're too old for me now, let alone in a few years. Oh, Anko said dangerously, her eyes narrowed in irritation. I know you did not just say that to the perfection that is me. Naruto was tempted to say he'd seen better, but his survival instincts kicked in and clamped his mouth shut long enough for the danger to pass. Yes, it's a nice package, he said neutrally. Still, not why I'm here. Anko snorted and relaxed, back in her chair lazily. Nice save, Gaki. So if you're not interested, why are you here? Naruto adopted a sad expression. It's come to my attention that some of the kunoichi I know have been neglecting their physical skills in favor of medical training. He held up a hand to stop any possible response and continued. Now, I agree that mednin are very valuable, but they shouldn't neglect their physical skills, right? Anko nodded but was confused at his point. Sure, but what's that got to do with me? Well, as a concerned shinobi of Konoha, I felt that I should do something about this issue, Naruto said with a wide, toothy grin. I know that you care about the village as well, and it would be a civic duty to give those kunoichi an incentive to train harder. Oh, I see where you're going with this, Anko said with a snort of laughter. Sorry, Gaki, I only torture people on duty. Pity, Naruto said sadly, pulling out a sealing scroll and unsealing a fresh dango stick he took a bite from as he stood up and turned around. I guess I'll have to find someone else interested in these sealing scroll full of fresh dango. A kunai whipping past his face to thud into the wall caused him to turn back around. Alright Gaki, Anko-sama is listening, Anko said leering at the sealing scroll. Sitting down, Naruto slid the scroll across the table to her. I thought you might be interested, and just so you know, I have another one of those scrolls. Pausing a moment as Anko cuddled with the scroll he'd given her. Naruto cleared his throat to get her attention. So, this is what I have planned, he said with an evil chuckle. Temari relaxed in the onsen, barely paying attention to her companions, but that wasn't exactly unusual. She did enjoy their company, but with this group, the conversation almost inevitably at some point focused on her husband. She would be the first one to admit Naruto was growing handsome as time passed by, but she didn't exactly feel like talking about it with the girls. It really wasn't surprising that Ino and Hinata would gossip about Naruto, but though she wasn't interested in Naruto himself. Tenten was obviously in love with Naruto's explosive tags, and that was her contribution to the conversation. Ayam had added an interesting development though. As the one who'd known him longest and viewing him as something like a beloved little brother. She seemed to delight in egging Ino and Hinata on, but she did have some amusing stories about Naruto as he was growing up. Her relaxed floating was cut short when Ino slid over to talk to her. Looking Temari over, Ino sighed, and Temari felt her eye twitch in irritation. Did you need something, Ino? No, not really, Ino admitted. I was just wondering why you don't wear your hair down more often? Something wrong with my hairstyle? Temari asked, with barely suppressed annoyance. Apparently some of that bled through cause Ino raised her hands defensively. No, no. Your hairstyle is definitely you, but your hair is so pretty when it's down. She stopped and eyed Temari critically. A little eyeshadow, some tasteful lipstick, and with your hair down, Naruto wouldn't be able to keep his hands off you. Temari arched an eyebrow and gave Ino a flat look. Not a problem for me, flower girl, but I'm not interested in discussing my love life with you or anyone for that matter. Ino pouted. Please? You're the only one near our age that has one, and it's not like I can ask my mom or her friends about it. Temari leaned in closer to Ino. Well, there is one thing I can tell you, she said in a near whisper. Really, Ino squealed before sliding closer. What can you tell me? Temari judged the timing and noted that Hinata had slid closer and seemed interested as well, though she was making a good attempt at hiding it. Well, she said breathily. I can tell you that, I'm not interested in talking about it. Ino gaped a moment before she started snickering. Oh, that was good, Temari, you had me hook, line, and sinker. Temari just grinned and enjoyed her victory. A victory that was short-lived when she noticed Anko appear on top of the wall surrounding the onsen. Greetings, the somewhat crazy woman called cheerfully. A concerned citizen brought it to my attention that you ladies have been neglecting your physical training. I'm here to correct that little oversight. Temari had a sinking feeling as Anko spoke. It seemed that Naruto had found an interesting method of revenge for being used as a medical test dummy. Now, with the exception of Temari-san, we're going to play a little game I like to call Dodge the Kunai and Not Die. It's a really fun game, though it's really only fun for me. Ayam raised her hand hesitantly. Yes, girl I've never seen before, you have a question? Oh no, I'm just a ramen waitress, are you involving me? Anko paused and considered that. No, I suppose not. The Hokage frowns on ninja chasing civvies around. You're free to go. Ayam hesitated, not sure if she should believe the woman or not, but Temari grabbed her wrist and propelled her towards the edge near the exit. Don't worry about these guys, just get out of here before she changes her mind. Getting nods from Ino, Hinata, and Tenten, Ayam gave them a warm smile before pulling herself out and exiting as quickly as possible. Now that Ayam was out of the way, Temari shared a look with the doomed Kunoichi, sharing the onsen with her. I would guess that this is Naruto's revenge for the medical thing. I'm a bit concerned, he just has her chasing you, what's he gonna do to me? Ino began to pull herself out of the onsen, but dropped back startled when a kunai slammed into the ground near her fingers. Somehow, I'm not terribly concerned about what's going to happen to you, fangirl. I've got my own problems. A startled screech from the other side of the onsen marked Hinata's attempt at escape, and shortly after she moved closer to Temari as if seeking cover. Snakes, she sputtered out. Lots and lots of snakes. Yeah, that figures, Tenten said resigned. Is there an opening we can get out, Hinata? Scanning the area with her bloodline active, Hinata nodded. Yes, she left the exit unguarded, but our clothes seem to be missing. Did she leave the towels at least? Ino asked worriedly. Sorry, no Ino-san, Hinata said sadly. We're gonna get you for this, Ino shouted at a laughing Anko. Besides, you can't chase all three of us just by yourself. Anko cackled and made a sign all the girls were familiar with, causing groans, and another two Anko popped into existence. Nice going Ino, Ten groused, getting an agreeing nod from Hinata. Hey, I can do that too, Ino said defensively, creating a half-dozen copies of herself. They lasted just long enough to give the trapped girls hope before they were expertly mowed down by Enko's Bunshin. Well, that didn't go like I hoped, Ino admitted. Just get going, Temari said, rolling her eyes. The sooner you get started, the sooner this ends. Says the girl that won't have to run around naked, Ten retorted. I'll trade you, Temari snarled. I get to walk back to the house, pregnant and naked. Temari-san has a point, Hinata said mildly. This isn't going to be fun for anyone. Fine, Ino grumbled. Let's go on 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Temari watched as the girls darted out the door and began running as the 2 Enko clones gleefully gave chase. The real Enko watched them go before dropping a towel and robe near the edge of the onsen for Temari. Not that I'm complaining, Temari said. But I'm surprised you're leaving these for me. Enko chuckled cheerfully. Well, not that I have anything against the other girls, but I actually like you, and you have a valid reason you're not physically training. I figure I can cut you some slack, just don't go spreading it around. Drying herself off and belting the robe around herself, Temari shook her head. Trust me Enko, not gonna breathe a word of it or those 3 might get a bit upset. Yeah, that too. Now if you'll excuse me, I have naked kunoichi to chase through town. With a mad laugh, Enko disappeared in a leaf shunshin, leaving an amused Temari behind. As she began carefully making her way towards the house, Temari began thinking out loud. Well, this is something else good coming out of asking her for advice, I suppose. Entering the house, she saw Naruto's sandals present. Looking around the house, she was surprised when she didn't find him in the kitchen or downstairs in his office. Making her way upstairs, she was further baffled when she didn't find him there either. Hard in her throat, she slid the door to Sakura's room open, but thankfully he wasn't there, just a peacefully snoozing Sakura. Hearing a muffled curse from the 3rd floor, Temari made her way there and found Naruto carefully inscribing seals on the freshly scrubbed floor of the training room. Oh, so that is tonight? She asked after watching him work for a few minutes in silence. Hey Temari-chan, Naruto said, his attention focused on his work. Yeah, Bachan should be here soon. He stopped talking for a moment as he fully concentrated on a particularly difficult design. There, almost done. So, while we're still alone, are you sure you're okay with this, Temari-chan? I'm fully aware that Sakura-chan is not one of your favorite people. I already said I was, Temari snapped before reining in her temper. Sorry, yes, I'm alright with this. Do I have some misgivings? Of course I do, but if I wasn't willing to accept this, then I wouldn't have agreed in the first place. Alright, Naruto said mildly. I just wanted to double check before it was too late to stop. Now, just gotta make sure I use the adoption seals and not the marriage ones. The what? Temari asked flatly. Seeing his grin, she sighed and thumped her head against the wall. Not funny Naruto, not funny at all. Finishing up, Naruto stood and carefully exited the ceiling area before he strode over and wrapped Temari up in a hug. And that, dear Temari-chan, was my revenge on you for allowing them to use me as a medical test dummy. I suppose it's better than being chased by Enko, Temari grumbled. Still wasn't funny. If you say so, Temari-chan, Naruto said with a wide grin. Now, we have a bit of time before Bachan shows up, and I do believe someone here was promised a massage. Know anyone like that? Temari smiled contentedly and allowed him to lead her downstairs. She was still annoyed at his little joke, but screw it, massage trumps irritation, especially if he used that warming oil again. That stuff was just pure bliss. Ino slammed the door closed and leaned against it panting. It had taken a great deal of effort, but somehow she'd made it home and she'd managed to avoid Enko's kunai and being spotted. Stealthily making her way towards the stairs, she froze when her father cleared his throat from his seat at the kitchen table. Hurriedly ducking around the corner, Ino spoke up in a wavering voice. Hi Daddy, how are you? I've had an interesting day. I was working at the flower shop and then an old ANBU friend dropped by to say he'd seen my daughter naked, fleeing from Anko. I thought he was joking, but I see that he wasn't. May I ask how you ended up naked being chased by Anko? Long story short, Ino said. Naruto hired Anko as revenge for us girls turning him into a mummy last night. I think the chasing us while we were naked was Anko, and not Naruto though. Doesn't seem like something he'd do, if only cause Temari would make him suffer for it. I see, Inoichi said calmly. Go get dressed and come here, Ino, we need to talk. We do? About what? Naruto, and what you're planning. Don't tell me it's nothing either, Ino, Don, forget who taught you to read body language. Well fuck. Ino thought as she hurried upstairs to get dressed. This was going to be interesting, she could just tell. This was all for now. Thank you for watching, I hope you liked it and that you will be back for more. Please like, share and subscribe. See ya.